The former InfoWars
Wish you could just wake up one day, reach across your nightstand, and hit the life reset button. Let's face it, the struggles and frustrations of everyday life leave millions of women and men around the globe yearning for a new way. And the new way is right here in Life Reset, the awareness integration path to create the life you want by Dr. Foojan Zeine. You can get it now at Foojan.com or Amazon.com. Life Reset, the awareness integration path to create the life you want. You deserve it.
The Inner Voice Show is a dialogue between the host and the listeners about their relationships. This show is not an attempt to assess, diagnose, or treat any mental health or illness condition. Please consult your physician, psychiatrist, or psychotherapist for personal matters.
Inner Voice, a heartfelt chat with Dr. Foojan.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Inner Voice Show. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine and have Sean in studio. Now, this is a show about what matters most in life: our mind, thoughts, feelings, actions, relationships, our fulfillment in this beautiful journey of life. Now, in this show, I'll bring you the latest research about how we think. The scientists have figured out how we think. And then we're going to talk to Alexia Vernon, the Moxie Maven, author of Step Into Your Moxie. And then we're going to talk to Mel Novak, an award-winning actor. I'll give you the studio lines. At any time you'd like to call us, go ahead. You can talk to me or one of our guests, 951-922-3532. Don't go anywhere. We're going to have an exciting show today. So see you right back.
Dr. Foojan Zeine is a psychotherapist, a marriage and family therapist, and a life coach with more than 27 years of experience. She is the author of the Awareness Integration Model, which has been researched and published in numerous international journals. Dr. Foojan has offices in Beverly Hills, Irvine, and Woodland Hills, California, and also consults online and by telephone. Make an appointment with her today by calling 818-648-2140 or go online to www.foojan.com. That's www.foojan.com.
Join the conversation every Monday afternoon at 3 p.m. Pacific for Inner Voice Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan. Dr. Foojan has a direct approach to getting you to free your mind. Inner Voice is a live call-in show where you can chat about your life and all that matters to you in your relationships. Inner Voice Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan, Monday afternoons at 3 p.m. Pacific on Smart Talk, KMET 1490 AM, and on the Internet stream.
We're back with our research. It is one of the most fundamental questions in neuroscience. How do humans think? I think that's the most fundamental question that we have. How do we think? Well, until recently, we seemed far from the conclusive answer. However, scientists from the Max Planck Institute for Human Cognitive and Brain Sciences in Leipzig, Germany, and Kavli Institute for Systems Neuroscience in Norway, among them Nobel Prize laureate Edward Moser, offer a new proposal in the current issue of the journal Science Humans Think Using Their Brains, a navigation system. Now, when we navigate our environment, two important cell types are active in our brain: place cells in the hippocampus and grid cells in the neighboring cortex form a circuit that allows orientation and navigation. Now, the team of scientists suggests that our inner navigation system does much more. Now, they propose that this system is also key to our thinking, explaining why our knowledge seems to be organized in a spatial fashion. You know how we categorize all the time. in a different way. Now, they believe that the brain stores information about our surrounding in so-called cognitive spaces. Now, this concerns not only geographical data, but also relationships between objects and experiences. Now, the term cognitive spaces refers to a mental map in which we arrange our experience. Everything that we encounter has physical properties, whether a person or an object, and can therefore be arranged along different dimensions. For example, if I think about cars, I can order them based on the engine power and weight. So we would have racing cars with strong engines and low weights, as well as caravans with weak engines, as well as combinations of, caravans, weak engines, and high weight, but as well as a combination in between. We can think about our family and friends in similar ways, right? For example, on the basis of their height, humor, income, and we code them as tall, short, humorous, humorless, or more or less wealthy. Now, depending on the dimensions of interest, individuals might be stored mentally closer together or further away. Now, by connecting all of these previous discoveries, we came to the assumption, the scientists came to the assumption that the brain stores a mental map, regardless of whether we're thinking about a real space or the space between dimensions of our thoughts. Now, our train of thought can be considered a path itself. The train of thought can be considered a path, though the spaces of our thoughts along different mental dimensions. So these processes are especially useful for making inferences about new objects or situations, even if we have never experienced them. Using existing maps of cognitive spaces, humans can anticipate how similar something new is to something they already know by putting it in relation to existing dimensions if they've already experienced them already. So, for example, if you experience tigers, lions, panthers, but have never seen a leopard, would probably place the leopard in a similar position as the other big cats in our cognitive spaces. Based on our knowledge about the concept of big cat, already stored in a mental map, we can adequately react to the encounter with the leopard. We can generalize to novel situations which we constantly face and enter how we should behave. This is how we look at the world. So we take in and then generalize, categorize them. And in some way, we do that as a child as we're growing up because that's how we produce thinking, apparently, by these scientists. So it's interesting that we need to do this in order to move forward. And it seems like animals have the same pathways because the spatial concepts was needed to find food and shelter. So brains have the same activity in their brain. The other side of this, not from this research, but the other side is, although we learn how to categorize and it creates efficiency for us, we've got to also watch out how much our categorization limits us, and it doesn't allow us to be open to new ways of seeing. So becoming aware, more and more aware of that would help you. Please go and read my book, Life Reset, because it talks about awareness integration model and how we look at the world, our thoughts, our thinking, and behaving, and how we can be more observant and aware of how do we do that as an experiential concept in the world, and where is it that by this type of categorization, we actually limit ourselves, and we won't allow ourselves to go beyond the generalization and categorization that we've done, and we kind of live all the time in our past because we take anything new and attach it to our past. So let's look at that more and more as we go along every week. Let's open it up together. So I'll propose these questions for you, and then love to hear from you about what your experience is with opening up, becoming more aware of your thought processes, your feelings, your emotions, and your behaviors, and the impact that they have in the way you think and in all the relationships, because we put in all of those spaces. We live in relationships, and that's where we live, and that's how our behaviors impact ourselves and everybody in the world. So we're going to talk to our guest. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Take KMET 1490 AM with you everywhere you go by downloading our free smartphone apps found on the KMET website, KMET1490am.com. You can also go to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store on your phone to download the free app. Now you can listen live or play any of your favorite programmers' podcasts using your smartphone. Don't miss out on the free KMET smartphone apps. Go to KMET1490am.com and download your free phone app today.
Have you ever wished you could just wake up one day, reach across your nightstand, and hit the life reset button? Let's face it, the struggles and frustrations of everyday life leave millions of women and men around the globe yearning for a new way. And the new way is right here in Life Reset, the awareness integration path to create the life you want by Dr. Foojan Zeine. You can get it now at Foojan.com or Amazon.com. Life Reset, the awareness integration path to create the life you want. You deserve it.
Well, welcome back to the Inner Voice Show. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine, and we are with Alexia Vernon. She's an author of Step Into Your Moxie, branded a Moxie Maven by President Obama's White House Office of Public Engagement. She's a sought-after speaking and leadership coach who delivers transformational keynote and corporate trainings for Fortune 500 companies and other professionals and groups and organizations, including the United Nations and TEDx. Alexia holds a graduate and undergraduate degrees in women's studies and has been featured in CNN, NBC, ABC, yay, and CBS, and in publications like Forbes Women, Women's Health, and the European Business Review. And you can find her in AlexiaVernon.com. Hello, it's so nice to have you on my show.
Thank you for having me.
So, I have your book, Step Into Your Moxie. So tell me, why Moxie? And what is my Moxie? And where is my Moxie?
Well, I suspect you have a ton of moxie, which is a good thing. When I refer to the process of stepping into your moxie, I mean you or anyone has the mindset and the corresponding skill set to be able to walk into any room or onto any stage and speak up for themselves, for other people, for the ideas and issues that matter most to them, and know that when they speak, their words and their ideas will move people to take action. The reason why I have used Step Into Your Moxie as my brand name versus, let's say, Find Your Confidence or Use Your Voice, which are all, of course, undercurrents of the work, is because there's something disruptive about the word moxie. It suggests not walking on eggshells and trying to please other people, being kind and compassionate, but also unapologetic about taking up space with your voice and with your ideas.
Like the power within is so much here, present, and it's given that you just walk in without necessarily being unshaken because of what's going on in your surrounding, because you believe in what you say and your voice matters.
Exactly. Would you like to be a publicist? I'm kidding. But that's
it. I kind of am, because I want the world to know about you. So obviously, in the recent Me Too movement and all that's happening for women, is this book for women or is it for everyone? It's just that obviously women can be using it, and they're becoming more and more stepping into their moxie with what we're seeing around the world.
Yes, from the standpoint that the book was written primarily for a female reader in mind. And with that said, anybody who recognizes that he or she wants to amplify their voice, visibility, and influence, I believe can take a lot away from the book. I could have never imagined the moment the book would be released in when I initially was pitching it. And yet, most of my life, I have experienced what I refer to as an on-again, off-again relationship to my own voice, meaning there would be these moments where I felt like I was tap dancing on eggshells, striving to be liked and to give all the right answers because I didn't want to be called out for failing to be enough of whomever I thought other people wanted me to be. I was constantly contorting myself into the best version of me. But then at other moments, and sometimes it would be very close to those former moments, I did trust my voice. I did speak up, even if it would make me, at least for a time, unpopular, because I knew that my voice could positively, at times, even radically improve people's lives. And at this moment, women particularly are struggling to integrate both of those pieces of us, because on one hand, we are being inundated with messages that our voices matter. We should speak up. We should run for office. But then we also have too many moments to mention where it feels like when we do, people don't always listen. They don't always take us seriously. We are evaluated in a way that is different than a male counterpart would be evaluated. So while the book is written from the perspective that there's a lot that we can do individually to reclaim our personal power, I'm also very cognizant, as I talk about in the book, we can't separate individual women's empowerment from the reality that culturally we still have a lot of work to do to create an environment where women's voices are valued.
As you were talking, I remember being in a seminar that was talking about who are we really? Who am I? Like, is it my thoughts? Is it my feelings? Is it what's going on in my brain and thoughts? Or is it action? And then one part was, well, I could have a lot of power inside. I could be the powerhouse inside. But as long as that power does not come through my voice, it does not give people who I am, because I could act, and obviously my voice and my words and speaking is a type of action. But if I just act without my voice and letting people know what my thoughts and emotions are, what my aspirations are, people are going to have their own interpretation of my actions only. They will still have their own interpretation of what I say, but at least when I say what I need to say, I am bringing my reality into the outside world. I'm bringing my power into the outside world. And as you were talking, it also came to me that not only women, but also young men, women in all ages, but also young men who are coming into the workforce, and they're still looking at everybody else as the people who are powerful, and they want to be approved, they want to be admired, they want to be taken seriously, can also really use this book, step into their moxie. So I think we have both of those. Now, you talk about self-talk. You talk about three types of conversations that goes on in our head. The critic, the cop, and the cheerleader, right? Now, in the therapeutic world, I know you're coming from the coach world, and I'm a therapist, so from the therapeutic world, we also kind of say like the nurturing parent, a very like the punitive parent, and those are each group calls it something. But define for me and the audience and the listeners, what do you mean by this voice that is happening, and how does that bring your moxie out, and how does it kill it off?
And in this case, unfortunately, it's the latter, unless we disrupt the monologue. So the problem with each of the voices, before I describe them, is that when they are holding the microphone in our heads, they are producing a monologue. It's one-way conversation. For some of us, it's the voice of the critic. And most of us are probably pretty familiar with this voice, because when she or he is holding a microphone, the message is you're not smart enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not handsome enough, you're not experienced enough, your network is not big enough, you're not something enough. But some of the other voices we don't realize are at play, and they're equally as problematic. One of those voices is the voice of the cop. And the cop likes to create two categories of everything. There's the right career path for me and the wrong career path. There's the right romantic partner. Everybody else is my karmic mismatch. And whenever we give ourselves the opportunity, unfortunately, to listen to that cop voice, we will often feel paralyzed stuck because we're trying to pick the least bad of two options, or we feel like there's one supreme option and we're stuck because we can't figure out exactly what that one is. The third voice is the voice of the cheerleader. And at first, the cheerleader sounds like she's our best friend because she's so positive. It's fine that you are only sleeping 3 to 4 hours a night because you're so busy. One day you'll retire and then you can catch up on sleep.
I have that voice.
A lot of very successful women and men, but particularly women do, because we're trying to be all things to all people and we're putting ourselves at the very bottom of our own to-do lists. And the problem with that voice, when we listen to it and we don't speak back to it, is we tend to get tired. We often get sick. We burn out. We don't make all the impact we could because we're not getting our own needs met.
Right.
And the solution for every single one of these voices is to introduce another voice into the mental menagerie, which is the voice of the coach. And the coach turns that monologue into a dialogue by asking questions that allow us to reclaim the role of protagonist in the story we're telling. So if we have that critic voice, the coach is going to ask a question like, what's a moment when you've been successful? And how can you bring what you did in that moment to this one? Or if it's the voice of the cop, the coach might ask a question like, what does a third or fourth option look like that you could consider? And for the cheerleader, the voice of the coach will ask a question like, what can you let go of from your to-do list? Mm-hmm. Who can you delegate to? Who can you ask for help? And in every case, again, the point I want to underscore is that we take back the role of protagonist in the story we're creating by making it a dialogue, so that when we actually open our mouths to speak to other people, we're doing it from a place of inherent worthiness rather than trying to puff up and posture and be someone that we're not.
Mm-hmm. So bringing yourself out from a space where you are actually aware. You're not just talking subconsciously, putting things out, but you are actually aware. And when you ask those questions from yourself, when you have a dialogue internally, you get more clear about who you are. And that clarity allows you to speak what you really mean and what you really want your message to be, versus just opening your mouth and whatever subconscious is out there just kind of like runs out. You also talk about images of bunnies and dragons and cheetahs. Now, are these animals in our head?
Not necessarily. There's a component in our self-talk for sure, but I actually use them as archetypes for what we do in our communication and with our influence. So for example, the bunny archetype is one that is familiar to a lot of women. It is when we are trying very hard to be liked and we don't want to disrupt the status quo. We might not assert what our real opinion is. We might say that we're sorry when we have nothing to be sorry for. I'm so sorry that I'm going to present my ideas right now. I'm so sorry, could I have 5 minutes of your time? On the other side of the female communication spectrum is the dragon. So if the bunny is about being soft and cute and sometimes even sexy, the dragon is fiery, as the name would suggest. It's our way or it's the highway. It feels like we're posturing by being hyper-masculine. We're not open to feedback. We are not open to hearing other people's points of views. And both of them, while they might sound very different, are born out of the same fear that being our authentic selves and using our authentic voice won't be enough, that we're not ready. And the way out of that is to look instead at a different archetype, which is the voice of the cheetah, or the image of the cheetah. So for those who don't watch the Animal Planet, like I did growing up, a cheetah is a fantastic animal. She can accelerate faster than any other land mammal, up to 65 miles per hour, very, very quickly. And the reason she can do that is because she has a flexible spine. If you think about a cheetah's face, she has tear marks literally imprinted on her face. So what that means for us in terms of our communication is that we are 100% audience-centered. We observe and we listen. And when it's time to get in the game and speak our minds, we do. And yet when it's not, we hold space for other people to speak. We ask questions. We're present. It also means that we're in touch with our emotions, the good ones and the not so good ones. And we use those as a tool to inform what we're going to say, but we're not certainly blindly guided by them.
Alexia, what I'm hearing from you is that there are ways of being that we usually just are used to taking on. And what a lot of that has become part of what we see from outside and then parts of it inside. So part of the way that the society holds us is to be nice, to be ladylike, to, to be cordial and allow people to be who they are. So in that realm, then obviously we can take on a role. And then if we're angry or if we think that our rights are being taken and that niceness does not uphold that, and then we go from 0 to 60 to another parts of us which demands, and it can be assertive or aggressive actually to get what we want. And then in that realm we present ourselves in a different way, which is more reactive, and it doesn't allow space for others. So one aspect of it is still doesn't allow space for others because I'm coming from inside and I'm constantly talking inside of my head, but not being real to the outside world because I'm just being nice, although I have a lot of judgments about myself and others. Or the other one, I have judgments about others and I'm just going to go and attack and demand what I need to get. And your suggestion is there is a way of being where I can assess the reality in external world and deal with the reality in the best of my capacity and who I am as my power, as the power of who I am. And that's what I'm hearing from you. There's a way of in creating that power or knowing about the power inside, where if I don't have the confidence or I have a self-esteem issue and the world is new to me, and maybe I'm someone who's young and I'm just getting into the career path, or I'm a woman who has stayed home and had my children are growing up and now I need to come back to the external world, or I've been in one type of career and now I need to change my career to something else, or I've been playing small and now I want to play big. And there's a place for me to look inside to create that essence before I can bring out my voice, before I can come out and look at the world in a way and react to it. What do you suggest in your book in that essence of how do I internally, with the dialogue you talked about, gain my power inside so therefore I can bring it out?
In any moment where we think about potentially speaking up, we are confronted with 4 options. We can say nothing, and usually when we choose that option, we feel pretty crummy inside because something is stewing. We can choose to improvise on the spot and hope for the best, and what we know is that the more high stakes the situation, the less likely that is to produce the outcome we want. The third option is to try to plan everything that we're going to say and control, which skews very female. And as a result, we replay something in our heads over and over again. We ruminate, really. And then when we open our mouths, we're trying to memorize or go off of some script we've memorized rather than be in the here and now. And I bring this up to answer your question because when I talk about the 4th option, which is we can strategically prepare so that when we go into the moment, we know the 3 to 5, let's say, main things we want to say, but then because we've practiced out loud our words and our nonverbal mannerisms, we can be present and trust the right thing is going to come out of us. That option works swimmingly when we know that the first time we say something or we think about it, it's not quite right. But when we've tried the other option, the one right before, then it also feels not right. It's that middle ground of knowing that using our voice is a muscle. It's a habit, as much as brushing your teeth or making your bed in the morning or remembering to exercise. And if we want to be effective in using our voices, particularly if we've had moments that we're replaying where we didn't have the impact we intended, the good news is that when we practice, it gets much easier, but we have to start practicing the right way. I'll often ask my coaching clients, how much time do they spend preparing for the communication that they're about to have on a given day? And they'll usually say, maybe I'll replay it in my head as I'm putting my makeup on in the morning, maybe for 5 minutes or so. And then I'll ask, how long did you spend thinking about how you were going to look for the day? And many will say, oh, well, I spent 30 minutes planning the outfit and putting on the makeup, maybe longer if I did my hair. And that's where this disconnect starts from, is that we're putting so much attention on what we're going to look like, what we want, rather than really focusing on, well, how do we get it? Every single moment of our day has a communication component. And when we rehearse a little bit more, oh my goodness, whether it's our self-talk or the communication that comes out of us, it not only feels easier and juicier, but we make much more impact when we do it.
And we'll get used to it with the practice. The muscle memories create the neural path in our head, and in our brain, and we can actually use those as a natural space because we practiced, because we saw ourselves, because we heard ourselves. So it's kind of a natural piece, and in that way, we become natural at what we actually practice and say. So I can create a new role model for myself to say, I want Foojan to come across this way, to look this way, to talk this way, to behave this way, for Foojan's body language to be a particular way. And if I consistently practice that, then it becomes that as I hear it, right?
Exactly.
I have this, one of my friends that every time said, if I'm sick, if I'm tired, all of that, the minute I come on to do the radio show or television show, or I come on camera, it's just, I go into a zone. And then we hear a lot of that for athletes, that they go into a zone. For some people who've done, they go into a zone. And part of that zone, it also is that when you practice something consistently, that your body and your system and the energy will take over, and it takes you into that space. And then obviously, as you practice, you get better and better. So that builds confidence. Mm-hmm. That is something that you can see, that as you create results in that way, builds your confidence. And then you bring that confidence out, and then you look at the external world, as you say, with that external world, then I can deal with it as a natural piece. Mm-hmm. When you say about stepping into your moxie, do you look at the envisioning of who you are in every area of your life, or is it a message and a vision that you have about like your career or who you are as a message itself, such as, my passion, or about doing something around the world? Or is it that I can do any of those visions and then step into it from that space?
Most of us have certain arenas of life that feel a little bit more comfortable to use our voice. So for some people, it might be professionally. I'm actually very good at being assertive, but in my romantic relationships, I'm a hot mess. In other cases, it might be I'm pretty good with all of my friends and with my colleagues, but when I have to talk to family, like my parents who have very different political beliefs than me, I find myself doing that tap dancing on eggshells thing. So first, owning that moxie, while the same things that make us successful in one arena usually are things that will make us successful in different arenas, recognizing that because we have our voice or we don't have our voice in one doesn't mean that it's going to be the same thing in others, for starters. And I recommend that when we're trying to make habits, the more that we can do something again and again and again, that we pick one specific area to work on at a time so that we can see results, rather than burdening ourselves with trying to do everything everywhere. So if you are an early career professional, maybe you recognize that you're doing a lot of supervisor pleasing, and it's actually hurting you to have weak boundaries because you're saying, yes, I can get that report in within the next day, but you actually can't until 3 days later. Practicing having that proactive conversation around deadlines and expectations is where to begin, and then see evidence that you've got that. Then perhaps in your romantic relationship, start playing with setting boundaries with your partner versus trying to do everything at the same time, feeling so many feels that you're constantly being triggered that you don't stay with it and you default to your old way of operating.
So the aspect of going from one area of your relationship to another, some strengths we can take. some strengths we could see that, oh, this works here and I can shift it to the other one. There are also areas that don't relate. For example, I've known a lot of women who kind of use their masculine part and masculine way of being in at work, in career, in negotiation. I have a lot of clients who are attorneys, who are real estate, business women who have to go really play hardball with the boys in negotiation. So they really capture their masculine side, or like the bosses. Like they have so many employees, right? So many employees, and then they come home and, they react the same way to their mate. And part of our conversation is, well, although this skill really works in here, but you can't transfer it exactly that way to your relationship. So maybe the recognition of how some of these skills work in one way, and then if not, then shift it to the other skills that they have.
And sometimes we conflate a skill with a tactic. And what I mean by that is, if we take a step back, the skill that person who knows how to be one of the guys, let's say at work, the tactic is perhaps bringing a little bit of your masculine in, but the actual strategy is being audience-centered, knowing what is needed for me to speak the way that person or the way those colleagues can hear. Now, we might be using that same tactic with our partner. I'm going to be aggressive and controlling and take up space. But if that's not being audience-centered, that's where that tactic may be coming into conflict, because the strategy of being audience-centered isn't being applied. A great rule for any communication context you're about to go in is to ask, how do I create the highest likelihood of connection for the person I'm seeking to move to action here? And I'll say that again. What can I do to create the highest likelihood to impact the way that I want the person or the people I'm about to speak to? And that becomes your filter for everything that you say and everything that you don't say, for how you use your body or how you don't. Because this is very different than saying, I want that person to like me. I am not saying that at all. But if we're seeking to move our partner, let's say, to take on more household responsibilities, or we're seeking to move our child to clean up his or her room, we might be entitled to say a whole host of things. But if it's not going to move that person or people to take the action we want, why are we doing it?
So be outside, audience centered, and look at what is needed out there, and then bring yourself into whomever you are, bring it into this space out here where it can meet the other person and what their needs are. So step into your moxie. For everyone who's hearing us, go to www.alexiavernon.com and meet Alexia, buy her book. It's an awesome book. And thank you so much for Alexia with being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciated our conversation.
Me too. One last sentence so the whole world can hear you.
If you know that your ideas can positively, maybe even radically improve people's lives, businesses, careers, it's not only an opportunity to step into your moxie, it's a responsibility to do so.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Everyone, don't go anywhere. We're going to be back with an award-winning actor, Mel Novak. Bye-bye.
Have you ever wished you could just wake up one day, reach across your nightstand, and hit the life reset button? Let's face it, the struggles and frustrations of everyday life leave millions of women and men around the globe yearning for a new way. And the new way is right here in Life Reset, the awareness integration path to create the life you want, by Dr. Foojan Zeine. You can get it now at Foojan.com or Amazon.com. Life Reset, the awareness integration path to create the life you want. You deserve it.
Join the conversation every Monday afternoon at 3 p.m. Pacific for Inner Voice, Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan. Dr. Foojan has a direct approach to getting you to free your mind. Inner Voice is a live call-in show where you can chat about your life and all that matters to you in your relationships. Inner Voice, Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan, Monday afternoons at 3 p.m. Pacific on Smart Talk, KMET 1490 AM, and on the Internet stream.
Hello, listeners. This is Christopher from The Christopher Show. Hey, if you missed one of our shows here at KMET, don't worry about it. You can go to our webpage, and that's KMET1490am.com. Go to the homepage, click on the SoundCloud tab, and hear any show anytime you want.
Dr. Foojan Zeine is a psychotherapist, a marriage and family therapist, and a life coach with more than 27 years of experience. She is the author of the Awareness Integration Model, which has been researched and published in numerous international journals. Dr. Foojan has offices in Beverly Hills, Irvine, and Woodland Hills, California, and also consults online and by telephone. Make an appointment with her today by calling 818-648-2140 or go online to www.foojan.com. That's www.foojan.com.
And now, back to Inner Voice.
Welcome back. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine, and I am excited to have Mel Novak, that was recently featured alongside Mel Gibson in the much acclaimed documentary Steve McQueen, American Icon, which played at 800 theaters nationwide and ranked number 3 at the box office on its opening night. Wow. Mr. Novak is best known as Stick, the assassin in Bruce Lee's final film, Game of Death, and he has starred in more than 60 feature films. He has starred in films opposite the likes of icons such as Steve McQueen, Yul Brynner, Chuck Norris, David Carradine, Rosie O'Donnell, and Dan Aykroyd, and many others, and has been directed by the likes of Joel Schumacher, Gary Marshall, Robert Klaus, and Steve Carver, and countless other directors. And as reported by Variety, while he is the ultimate villain on the screen, in real life, he is a true hero. Mel is also introduced into 5 various martial arts Hall of Fame, and he has been volunteering on Skid Row for over 30 years and has counseled prisoners at the most dangerous prisons in the country, and has also volunteered with the Special Olympic. Welcome to my show, Mel.
Thank you so much for having me, Doc. It's a real honor.
It is so nice to, I saw your pictures and I saw some of your movies, and I was just looking, and I'm like, oh my God, it's so great to be able to speak with you, to know about all the new movies that you are doing. Tell us a little bit about that, and then I definitely want to also talk about your experience in Skid Row and with prisoners.
Yes, and also I did a movie with Beirut Zasugi.
Huh?
You know, he was like Stephen Queen over there in your country, and Tony Zarandas was a real good friend, and he passed away recently.
Yes.
But Tales of Frankenstein, we just had the screening, and it's really an incredible movie about. It was like 4 segments. I was on a third one. I played a mad scientist who took the brain out of this detective and implanted in my pet gorilla Gargantus.
Wow.
But
how did that work out?
That's a good question. But Don Glut was the director, producer, writer, brilliant writer. You had a lot of people. Anne Robinson from the original War of the Worlds. You had there's Bev Watchburn from Old Yellow, T.J. Storm. I mean, you had a lot of good people in there, but it was really well done. Then also, An Hour to Kill. I played Mafia. I like to play Mafia.
Why? What is it about Mafia that you like?
Well, in my real life, I have been a prison minister all these years, 36 years. I do not like people who abuse women or their wives. And so, like, I could play the mafia, and I'd take them out.
So every wish that you've ever had in real life, you get to actually play act right there, right?
Yeah. I did. I'm going to be doing Robo Woman. I start Saturday with, and
Yeah.
yeah, and then on Nemesis 5, I was responsible for 10 million people dying in a war.
Mm.
And so it was, it's like a different thing. You know, my best friend, my manager, Joe Williamson, he gets a lot of different, I play different kind of people. And, but, you know, like I said, my favorite are mafia.
So it seems like you're going from one type of an action movie, which used to be martial arts, to another type of action movie, which are sci-fi thrillers and different kind. And then you obviously have different roles, but you still love action movies. It seems like.
Yes, I do. That's what I was born, you know, like raised on. I got the role in Black Belt in Game of Death because I was doing Black Belt Jones. I played a hitman named Blue Eyes.
Mm.
And director, 2/3 through, he said, I'm taking to Hong Kong to do that movie. And it's like everybody has seen that movie. But, you know, in An Hour to Kill, Aaron Carter was just a real brilliant director, writer, a super nice guy. I love to work with people like that. We got out of 20 reviews, 18 were unbelievable.
Wow.
So, yeah, and so it's, and when I'm not working, I just go to Skid Row. Tomorrow I'm going to be at Skid Row. And then Saturday I start that movie. And then LA County Jail is like the worst jail in the country. And it's a blessing that I could minister to these people. You got rejection, abandonment, betrayal in a women's prison.
Right.
I get a lot of proposals in there in the women's prison. But
What is it that you accomplish for yourself? What is it that you're bringing as a message to Skid Row or when you go to prison? What about you are you sharing? What about you are you sharing when you go to Skid Row or you go to the prison?
Well, you know, I'm really, I let them see the things I've gone through. I should have died 7 times. I've had 28 surgeries. I was crippled for five years from pro baseball with a shoulder, lived with pain there. Had a wife while I got out of a marriage. I raised 2 daughters. So when you show them, look, this is what I went through, because hopelessness is the most devastating emotion in the world. You know that.
Yes.
It's what I do. And the big thing is encourage. We got to encourage people. You know, at Skid Row, there's 70,000 people down there.
Yes.
And it's just like, it breaks your heart. And the violence. And like someone asked me the other day, what's missing in the world? Love. Whatever happened to love? There's so much hate. Love's an action, not lip service. So,
and you're bringing your love to them. And it seems like you're bringing your love, your experience, who you are. And they see you that no matter what happened, that you are moving along. It doesn't matter whether you couldn't move or you failed at something, that no matter what, you were going to get up and do whatever it is you need to do, that you're constantly working, you're putting yourself out there. And that's a beautiful message to give them from the love that you present. So when you go to Skid Row or you go to the prison, how do you offer your love? And I say this because I'm also wanting our listeners and viewers to hear from you and learn from you. And sometimes, you know, Mel, we only have an idea about love and expressing love in a particular way. And the more that we learn how to, you know, express our love in all these different ways, that it helps. Tell us, how do you offer love and how do they get it? How does it land on them?
well, the people trust me that I'm not going to judge them. I'm not going to rip them. And I look them square in the eye. And, you know, like I've told some inmates in the level 4 penitentiaries, I love you, bro. This one big dude, he started crying. Nobody ever told me that. Yeah, my daughter said, if I had a dollar for every time I told them I loved them, I'd be a millionaire. And this is what on Skid Row, as soon as they see me, there's a smile on their face because I'm going to bring an encouraging message to let them know they have worth and value. The Bible says so. Because, what I deal with there's a lot of demonic activity, and the mind is a devil's playground. So they think, oh, I'm on Skid Row or I'm in prison. So what I do is I bring that love with no judging, no criticism. There's so many people like to criticize people, and that's very painful. Those words are like an assassin's bullet.
Yeah.
So this is where, and I've been there for so long. It's not like I go there once in a while, but I'm there, and they know. And there are times when I struggled with the pain. You go through surgery or something, but I went. And they call me the mayor of Skid Row. See, now when I go to the penitentiaries, I'm dressed up, custom suit, two-tone shoes. I'm old school. And you see some of the brothers go, now that brother's down. Be sharp. That opens up other doors. Then they know I did these movies, and but they know that I just look at them and see if people could just learn to love unconditionally without having an agenda, things would change. And I asked these inmates last week, or 2 weeks ago, when's the last time you thank God you can see, walk, talk, and hear, go to the bathroom both ways? Not one did it. And I have had my eye ripped with a 90-mile-an-hour rack up. I was healed. I didn't do chemo.
You're coming back. Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay, good. We lost you for a minute, but you're back. So what I hear from you, which is so true, is that when people are in Skid Row or prison or homeless, sometimes we just become invisible. And it's one of the worst feeling to get, not seen, that I'm irrelevant, I'm invisible. And what I hear you do is you go in and tell them, I see you and you matter. And I love you. Well, as a human being, I love you. I might not have a personal relationship with you, but as a human being, I get to see you. Yeah. And that's what brings them that essence of I matter. And someone in the world sees me. They don't have to be related to me. They don't have to have something to do with me, but they see me as a human being.
Because there was a prison I went to. Does anybody think they're a failure? They said, put your hand down. There are no failures. We may fail in something. That does not make you fail. You get a learning experience to move on.
Yes.
But, and also in the prisons, you got 83 to 87% never forgave themselves. Mm-hmm. That's a trap.
Yes. Yes, it is. So I have 1 minute, Mel. I really want the listeners and the audience to know where can they find you, and where should they go to find you? Which movie is going to be out there that they can come in and see you?
Well, Tales of Frankenstein on Amazon Prime. You got Syndicate Smasher and Revenge of the Samurai Cop. But on my website is www.melnovak.com, melnovak.com, and could always find me on Skid Row.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much for being on my show. It was great. Honor to meet you. It is a blessing to meet you. And next time you go to Skid Row or the prison, tell them I say hi. And maybe you can take your computer, and next time on the show, we'll go together over there.
Sure. Yeah, it would be great for them to see.
Beautiful. Thank you. Bye-bye for everyone. Create an amazing life for yourself and everyone around you. Talk to you next week.
Thank you.
The Inner Voice Show is a dialogue between the host and the listeners about their relationships. This show is not an attempt to assess, diagnose, or treat any mental health or illness condition. Please consult your physician, psychiatrist, or psychotherapist for personal matters.
KMET, Banning, Beaumont, Redlands, and Palm Springs. KMET, Banning.